Some people look at a hamster and see only a small, silent, almost invisible animal in the corner of the house. But others feel something different, a natural attention, a desire to observe every movement, every pause, every glance. And the most curious thing is that this doesn't happen by chance, because without realizing it, the type of animal you choose to care for may be revealing a very specific way of seeing the world, a way that is more sensitive to detail, to silence, to what seems fragile. And that's exactly why loving a hamster can say more about you than you imagine, as if this discrete connection were, in fact, a direct reflection of how your brain reacts when it finds something vulnerable and worthy of protection. And perhaps, as you listen to this, a memory surfaced in your mind, a moment when you noticed your hamster silently watching you, as if a small trust were being built there, day after day. Those who pay attention to these details often feel they are not, alone in this experience. There is a kind of silent recognition among people who see value in care, patience, and presence. And when this kind of connection begins to make sense, it's natural to want to stay close, observing, learning, and discovering new signs that previously went unnoticed. Because from here, the story becomes even more intriguing. And what happens inside your brain in these moments can be deeper than it seems. Because the brain doesn't choose by chance. It reacts to what you feel, even when you don't yet realize it. Sometimes this reaction happens silently, almost invisibly, like when you find yourself watching a hamster for a few extra seconds, without being able to explain exactly why. It's not just tenderness, it's recognition. It's as if, deep down, some part of you understands that small, vulnerable being and feels responsible for it. Even without words, perhaps you didn't choose a hamster. Perhaps your brain recognized in it something you've always felt. Inside, a need to care, a natural attentiveness to what is fragile. People who connect with small animals often possess a different sensitivity, an ability to perceive subtle changes, strange silences, almost imperceptible movements. They notice when something is wrong even before there is a clear sign. And that's not weakness. It's a profound form of presence. But this sensitivity also brings a silent weight, because those who feel more, perceive more. Small details that go unnoticed by most begin to catch their attention. A different behavior, a quieter look, an unusual pause, and little by little, a feeling arises that is difficult to explain, as if you were always attentive, always caring, always trying to protect something that depends on you. If you recognized yourself in any part of this story, perhaps it's because this way of feeling is already part of who you are. And many people who live through this experience describe the same thought, almost like a silent outpouring. If this also touched you in some way, write a simple sentence below, something like, "I've felt that way too," because what follows may show why this emotional connection is so strong, and why it changes the way you see the world around you. And it's at this point that concern begins to creep in, silently, almost automatically, because those who sense things more intensely can't simply ignore the small signs. You notice when the environment changes, when the noise becomes different, when their behavior seems a little out of the ordinary. While other people see only a quiet hamster, you feel that something might be happening there. And this feeling doesn't come from imagination. It comes from constant attention, from a protective instinct that never completely shuts off. You don't just watch your hamster out of affection, you watch it because your brain is always trying to keep everything safe. There's an effortless emotional vigilance, as if a part of you is always alert, ready to act, before anything goes wrong. And this creates an internal tension that's hard to explain, because while this care stems from love, it also brings a silent responsibility. It's like carrying the feeling that the well-being of that little being depends directly on you. And little by little, this shapes how you behave. You adjust your routine, observe details, think twice before changing something in your environment, not because someone told you to, but because deep down, you feel that protecting is part of who you are. And perhaps that's why so many people who live this experience describe the same feeling, a mixture of deep affection with a constant concern that isn't always visible to others. If this feeling has ever been a part of your life, perhaps you understand exactly the weight and meaning of this concern. Many people, when they recognize this, tend to say something simple, almost like a sincere outpouring. "I understand this moment," because the next discovery could completely change how you view this sensitivity and show that there is something much stronger behind it than you imagine. And this is exactly where many people begin to be surprised, because what seemed like mere sensitivity, excessive care, or even too much worry, begins to reveal something much deeper. What many call exaggeration may be exactly what makes you more aware than most people. This constant attention, this careful gaze, This ability to perceive subtle changes does not stem from fear. It stems from a mind trained to sense the environment, read signs, and react before the problem arises. People who connect with small animals often develop a silent skill. They see what others don't. They perceive discomfort before the noise, fear before the reaction, need before the request. It's as if the brain is always one step ahead, creating an invisible protective network around those who depend on them. And little by little, the love for a hamster ceases to be seen merely as affection and begins to be understood as a sign of emotional intelligence, of real presence, of a sensitivity that transforms into conscious care. And perhaps, without realizing it, this little animal has awakened something within you, something that was always there, but that took shape when you began to care for, observe, and protect it. It's not just about it depending on you. It's about your brain learning to become more attentive, more patient, more human. If this idea has slightly changed how you view this connection, many people describe this feeling with a simple phrase, almost like a personal discovery. This changed my perspective, because what comes next may show that this transformation doesn't just happen to him, it also happens within you. And it is at this point that everything begins to make sense in a deeper way. Because caring for such a small being doesn't require strength, status, or recognition. It requires something that almost no one sees: consistency, attention to detail, responsibility even when no one is watching. These are silent decisions repeated every day, changing the water, observing behavior, noticing when something doesn't seem normal. And it is in these simple gestures that character is revealed, not in words, but in actions that happen away from the eyes of others. Loving a hamster doesn't just show that you like animals. It shows that you know how to care for something that can't defend itself. It shows that there's a rare disposition within you to protect what is vulnerable, even without applause, without reward, without recognition. And this transforms how you see yourself, because a different perception begins to emerge, that this patience, this sensitivity, and this care are not small things. They are signs of an emotional awareness that grows in silence. Perhaps your brain didn't choose a hamster by chance. Perhaps it recognized in that little creature the opportunity to express the most human and most silent part of who you truly are. And when that idea starts to click, many people feel a quiet, almost intimate pride in realizing they are doing something important every day, even if no one sees it. If this realization resonated with you in some way, some people tend to summarize this feeling in a simple phrase, almost like a personal acknowledgement. That really affected me, because understanding this is just the beginning, and the next reflection may reveal why this type of care changes not only his life, but yours as well. And if you've made it this far, perhaps it's because this story awakened something silent within you, a new perception, or perhaps a recognition of something you already felt but had never put into words. Because caring for a small being, paying attention to details, protecting even when no one is watching, is a simple gesture on the outside, but profoundly human on the inside. And sharing this kind of reflection with people who see the world with this same sensitivity transforms this space into something more than a channel. It transforms it into a place of connection. If this content resonated with you, it's natural to want to stay connected, following other stories, other discoveries, other signs that help you better understand this silent relationship that exists between you and those who depend on your care. And if this message touched you in any way, this small gesture of presence, of being there, of supporting, ultimately strengthens this journey. There's another video right here that continues this conversation. Just follow it and continue with me on this journey.